Hi, let me turn my TV off, or I'll just mute it because I'll be watching this thing while we do the show. So much happening, Ben. You never know. Something just might pop up.
Never know.
My name is Barry Sterling Mitchell. Today is January 12th, 2023. Jeez, man, it's going by. I had something pop up on my Facebook page. Started to talk about it getting light later at some point already, so that's always a good thing. But this is Ben and Barry on football.
Hello out there. This is Ben Dickerson, your co-host. Week 18 was very interesting for a whole lot of different reasons. As far as wins and losses are concerned with my picks last week, I didn't expect to do very well because I knew there were going to be situations where I would want to pick a particular team and they may be resting starters or what have you. Turns out I did pretty well. It's 10-6, which I thought was really good considering I had no idea. Well, I had a little idea of some teams that pretty much had seeds locked up and might rest starters. There were teams that had seeds locked up, still started their starters. Some of them played almost a full game. Some of them played like a half. So it was kind of crazy, but 10-6 I thought was pretty good.
Yeah, when we're doing the Sterling Net Point rankings, and I always kind of talk about it as kind of a trend thing, kind of a backwards looking situation, but establishing a trend. You get to the last game of the season, and the trend is established from season to season, not through the season, because it's not like it was all season long. Like you just said,
Right.
people are playing, some people are not playing, some people are sitting, they're playing a part of the game, not playing a part of the game. Right now, the Chargers are catching heat, right?
Right.
For playing, and it wasn't even a necessary game.
That's what I'm talking. That was one of those situations.
It was a crazy, crazy week. We were just talking about the Chargers, and now they're talking about whether or not the coach is on the hot seat. He's made some questionable decisions. He was one of those guys that would go for it on fourth down in his own 20 unnecessarily. We're like, why are you doing that?
Yeah, he kind of cut back on that this season a little bit.
Yes, he did. Yes, he did. But I think, it all goes into the question mill about him when you're looking at him like, have you won because it comes down to, have you won a Super Bowl? You know what I mean?
Right.
They're looking at Aaron Rodgers now, that was crazy. See Aaron Rodgers walk off. $50 million. And you don't get there at all, so much happening. We have the Damar Hamlin situation where he's gotten better and better, and I understand he's home now.
Yeah.
So much going on with that. I just saw something, Ben. We're talking about Tua, and he's not going to play, this week. But all the questions now are, about him long term, and I kept thinking, I'm like, should he just retire? Because if you remember, as I said, when the way he fell, I felt like he had a lack of body strength. He had the one time where he got pushed and he kind of walked backwards and he fell back. But he fell back in such a way that it whipped, you know what I mean? And his head whipped into the ground. Now, you and I, like I said, we've been taught to tuck and roll and whatever, and how to fall in football is one of the fundamental things. And that you don't do unless you just don't have control.
Right. And when you lose control, usually when you are slightly losing consciousness or unconscious for a certain amount of time, even if it's quick, that's when you would lose
I'm
all
talking about
body
the control of the fall. This was his first
No, but it was my understanding, the way I saw it, that he was already concussed when he got up and then wobbled and fell, and they said he had a back injury.
I agree. I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about before he actually fell. The act of falling, okay, is where I'm
When you
saying.
say falling, you're talking about when he was tackled?
No, in that first one, he was hit and he got pushed back and he stumbled backwards and he fell backwards. And that's what I'm saying. The
Okay.
way he fell, his body whipped,
Right.
his head whipped down into the ground.
Right.
Everybody said he had a concussion. He got up talking about his back, but I'm talking about, you and I, if when we were playing football, we got pushed like that all the time. We don't fall back and have our head go smashing into the ground. We were
I
taught to
believe
tuck
the
and
hit
roll,
concussed him.
huh?
It's my belief. I'm not a doctor, nor do I play one on TV. Okay. But I believe the hit actually concussed him.
But that's not what I'm talking about, though. Okay, I'm talking
Then he
about
fell and hit his head. He
I'm
fell.
talking about his ability to protect himself.
Right. But if you're concussed, you have no ability. He couldn't protect himself. The hit is what concussed him. He lost the ability to control his body, fell, and banged his head.
All right, we'll have to talk about this later because you're completely missing my point.
No, I'm not. He
Yes,
made
you
no
are.
attempt to brace his fall. It looked like he had no body control where he could land on his back and hold his head up so it didn't hit. That's a loss of body control caused by a concussion.
He hadn't fallen yet. Why would he have
He
a
didn't
concussion?
have to fall to be concussed.
Well, he
The
hadn't even.
initial hit concussed him.
Okay, okay. So you're saying that the push that hit him
Yes, that
concussed him.
concussed him.
That's
Yes,
what you're
which
saying.
is which is why he had no body control. None. He had zero body control. His body went limp. He fell and banged his head on the ground. He went limp because he was concussed from the hit, the whip, like that. That concussed him. That's my belief. Why else would he just go ragdoll?
I'm saying he doesn't have the body strength to deal with the NFL
Okay.
because, again, the tackling technique that's being taught now is this thing where you wrap, roll, and whip the guy into the ground. Well, I've seen Josh Allen get tackled like that, and I've seen a number of quarterbacks get tackled like that, and they get up and go to the next play. I saw Tua get tackled like that. He looked like he was about to end his life. They looked like it was about to be done for him. And I'm like, Jamie, Christmas, these guys are big and they're strong, and he just might not be big, strong enough. Height wise is
Well,
all.
I'm not going to disagree with that. That he may not be strong enough. I'll go ahead and agree with that. But I'm just talking about that specific incident.
Well, I have to go back and look at that. I saw the head hit the turf, and I associated that hit with the concussion, not the initial hit that knocked him back. So that's
Right.
the difference between what you and I are talking
Yes,
about.
it's my belief that the hit rendered him to a point where he had no body control.
Okay. Okay. I have a hard time with that because of the fact that he took
Okay.
so many steps back that he got hit like that. It's not like he got hit and drove into the ground. But in any event, that became a question. We had the loss of a few people. We'll talk about that at the end of the show when we go back to our Facebook page, Ben and Barry on football. But what I also wanted to let people know, as you saw, him and I arguing about football or going back and points. Sometimes these are 5 points, but we've been doing this for how long, Benny?
Oh my God, I can't, bro. Don't ask me hard questions. We're
I just say
talking
40 years.
40 years.
I throw about a 40 burger out there. Okay.
I believe so.
But football is not the only thing that we coalesced around. Music is
Yeah.
something that we've done a lot of. We went to a lot of games, especially basketball, but we went to a few concerts. Now I want to remember, were you with me when I saw Jeff Beck and Santana at the Man? Were you with me that game?
No, I was not at that one.
Oh, Benny. Well, first
I
of
don't
all,
think I ever saw Jeff Beck live. I remember seeing Santana several times.
okay. They were both there. Crystal and I went, and I'm mentioning this. Rest in peace, Jeff Beck. Just recently passed, and he was my second favorite guitarist behind Santana. So I had 1 and 2 at the concert. And
Wait. What happened to John McLaughlin on that list? Just to throw you a curve.
John McLaughlin is a different type of guitarist than what I personally favor.
Got you.
I like melody. I like
I got you.
guys who can play in a melodic fashion.
I got you.
And this McLaughlin, he's playing that esoteric out
Yeah.
there, and I love
Yeah.
it. And I love his capability in the 12-string guitar and all that.
Right.
But Santana, king of the melodic guitarist, right? And
I got a
then
point.
when Jeff Beck picked up on jazz and began to include that type of influence in his music, he became much more melodic.
Right.
So songs like "Cause We Ended as Lovers," are songs that you can just sit there and he's singing to you, through this thing. And so that's why I had to text you when I saw that report. I was like, geez, sometimes you just take for granted that these people are around, they're gonna be there, and he talked about Jeff Beck and I don't know how long. But wow, that's crazy, man. So I'm sorry you didn't make that concert. But you know what happened? That we were disappointed. And I don't know why, but the whole crowd was like wanting them to jam together, and they did not.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
I'm sitting there waiting, salivating, like, oh snap. Jeff Beck's out there, Santana's gonna walk out, and they're gonna start hitting. I'm like, no,
It never happened.
never happened. No, didn't happen. So, that was one of the things that happened. And that's, like I said, over 40 years, not just football, but football and music and that type of stuff. So, all right, Benny, let's get ready to look at the numbers. The Sterling Net Point Power Rankings. Week 18, this wraps up the regular season. So this is sort of the summary for the season and where everybody falls in at the end of the season. Okay.
Got it.
And we've seen some serious moves by different teams. We've seen what we call ranking differential, which I don't think the NFL really talks about. When you have teams like the Detroit Lions, who might at any time were fourth or fifth in offense and 30th on defense, a ranking differential of what, 25,
Right.
And a lot of the teams with small ranking differentials, depends on the sector that they were in. Like if you're the Broncos and you were 30th in defense, well, the Broncos were actually high in defense. They were one of those ranking differential
Yeah,
teams.
it was the other way around.
It was the other way around, right? So we saw a lot of that. And then you had some of the teams that they were just all of the different areas that we look at: points, average net points, average points for, average points against, and average turnover differential. So some of them, they were in the same area across all of those categories. But then your better teams were in that top tier across pretty much mostly all of those categories. So let's look at that right now. Bottom 8, rounding out the end of the season, the only playoff contender. And when we talked about being in the other categories, there you got Tampa Bay also in scoring at 25th. So they're 25th in average net points at minus 2.6. So they're in the negative in terms of their net point scoring. Yet again, that's one of those crazy rules. You win the division, don't make any difference how bad you got in. That's how you get in. But they were followed by through 32, 25 through 32. It's Tampa Bay, Tennessee, Denver, the LA Rams, Arizona, Houston, Chicago, and Indianapolis. So those are the teams, and they range from a negative 2.6 net points to a negative 8.1. And that Chicago and Indianapolis are actually tied at negative 8.1. And again, average net points and average turnover differential, which is again is a net situation, can go both positive and negative. So before we go to points for, points against, and turnover differential, anything you got to say about that?
Just that, simply put, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers have given up 2.6 more points than they've scored, and they still made the playoffs. And not only did they make the playoffs, but they won their division. when you think about that, you have to chuckle.
Well, I told you, I put these numbers together, and sometimes I'm laughing to myself, and I'm wondering. I said, if people saw me looking at an Excel spreadsheet laughing, they probably think I was really, really weird. Which they might not be wrong, but the fact of the matter is, when you look at these numbers and you know these teams, you're like, wow, this is amazing.
Right, right.
In scoring, you got Tampa Bay, Pittsburgh, the Rams, Tennessee, the Jets, Houston, Indianapolis, and Denver. And that ranges from 18.4 points per game scored to Denver at 16.9. And again, to be the very last team in scoring, when you have a quarterback that you paid, you mortgaged the house for, has to be crazy. They're looking for coaches. There's a coaching scenario going on right now. The carousel has started, and they have to ask the question: who would want to go to Denver? They asked that question because Russell has this long-term ironclad contract, and they've already given away half the house. So you come in as a coach, you got to deal with that. So you have to be ready to do a Russ revival, and I don't know. So anyway, in terms of defense, there's a team there that has made the playoffs in Seattle at 25, allowing 23.6 points per game. Behind them are the Raiders, the Texans, the Lions, Minnesota, Indianapolis, Arizona. I'm sorry, there's a team that made the playoffs. Minnesota, Indianapolis, Arizona, and Chicago. That's ranging from 23.6 down to 27.2 points per game. Chicago being absolutely last in defense. What do you think about that, Benny?
Well, that goes back to what you just said a little while ago about ranking differential. Here you have two teams, one being Seattle, one being Minnesota, that are ranked in the bottom, what is this, bottom fourth? Or
Yeah.
bottom third, bottom fourth
yeah.
of the entire league in points against, yet they still were able to make the playoffs, which tells you that you'll be seeing them in points for a little higher up as we go on further, at least enough to get them over the edge and make them worthy of making the playoffs.
Yes. Average turnover differential. We believe turnovers lead to points, and there's something called the Pythagorean calculation that actually puts a 4-point value on a turnover. So you want your net turnovers to be positive. In this case, they are not. Going from 25th to 32, you have Carolina, Washington, Arizona, New York Jets, Miami, Las Vegas, New Orleans, and last place, Indianapolis at minus 0.8 average turnover. So that means that they're giving up about almost a full turnover per game extra to the other team. So that's giving away points right there for sure. What do you got for me?
On turnover differential, we still see even another playoff team on this list being in the bottom fourth. That's the Miami Dolphins. But I tell you, minus 0.4 might not seem like much, but this is a team that consistently gives the ball away more than they take it away. That does not bode well for them as they embark on the playoffs.
Bode well, he says. Man, I tell you, using big, small words. Yeah, there you go. All right. What do we got here? What's next? How about 17 through 24? So here again, we have all negative net points, but we have the Saints, the Jets, the Browns, the Falcons, the Commanders, Las Vegas, Carolina, and Pittsburgh, all in the negative in net points, ranging from 0.9 down to negative 2.2. And that was negative 0.9. So again, that's the difference between the points for and the points against. Simple subtraction. I don't think people like subtraction, though. Something about subtraction I think people don't like, man. New England, in terms of scoring, is coming in at 17th, They're ahead of Cleveland, Baltimore, Carolina, Arizona, New Orleans, Chicago, and Washington, ranging from 21.4 points per game down to 18.9 for the Commanders. So that's, again, two areas where the Commanders are somewhat nearby, but they had a pretty decent defense, I do believe. Their defense was a little better. Your Giants, there's a playoff team coming in at 17th, allowing 21.8 points per game, tied with the Green Bay Packers. And then you have Carolina, Cleveland, the Chargers, another playoff team, the Rams, Atlanta, and Miami, another playoff team. So 3 playoff teams are in the, let me see, the third of the fourth of the four. Quintile, third quintile, I guess you would, quartile. It's a quartile, not a quintile.
Quartile. Come on, man.
Quartile, the
Let's
third.
go like this.
So what you got on that? On this quartile?
Well, again, when we talk about things that don't bode well, you're looking at a playoff team in Baltimore Ravens that are number 19 in points for, which means they don't come in with as strong an offense as you would believe they would need to advance in the playoffs. Consequently, you look at points against, same thing with my Giants, 21.8. That's a lot of points to be given up as you embark on the playoffs. An even worse situation for the LA Chargers at 22.6. So these are things that have slowed these playoff teams down during the course of the season, but other parts of their game have held them up to the point where they were able to get wins and advance.
It's interesting that you mentioned Baltimore. I just happen to have a stat here that I picked up. Points per game since 2018, week 11. When Lamar Jackson starts, they're averaging 28 points per game, second highest in NFL history. 10 other quarterback starts, they're averaging 18 points per game. That's a 10-point differential there. And
between
he's not
Lamar
there.
Jackson and everybody else.
Everybody else. So that's closer. That 18 is closer to that 20.6, and we know he's not there right now. So these numbers always reflect, the truth of what's going on. Sometimes you can have these numbers and the win-loss record, it begins to belie what the win-loss record actually is. And I think that in the next quartile, we'll begin to see a bit more of that.
Belie.
Belies.
Bode.
Bodes and belies and quartile.
We're boding and belying.
I'm telling
you. This is great.
So here's 9 through 16. This would be the second quartile. And you see some of the teams in blue who are definitely in the playoffs. An interesting grouping here with Detroit and New England being ahead of a number of these teams. But you're going from here's where you break it up between positive and negative. So from 9 to 16, you have Detroit at plus 1.5, New England at plus 1. So those both are eliminated. You then have the Chargers and Seattle tied at 0.4. That's a plus 0.4, coming in at 11th and 12th. 13th place, you have the first negative net points, and that's the Packers at negative 0.1, tied with a playoff team, the Miami Dolphins, at negative 0.1. And then 15th and 16th place, you have the Minnesota Vikings at negative 0.2, followed by the New York Football Giants at minus 0.4. I'm going to stop there and let you can't think of a big word or a little big word.
Well, that's okay. Okay, so of course, now that my Giants are in this group, and we're talking about the top half of the league, if I can say it that way.
Yeah.
And give a more positive spin on a negative number by saying this. we're talking about minus 0.1, minus 0.2, minus 0.4. These are fractional numbers. This means that although they are giving up more points than they're scoring, it's less than a touchdown. That's my positive spin on it.
That's your positive
okay.
spin?
These teams have all qualified for the playoffs, and although they have their difficulties, they're all worthy. I have to say they're all worthy. They're all there. And the number being so low in the differential, I'm going to say in a positive light, means that they still have a good chance, that it shouldn't drag them down. They still have a good opportunity to win their games in advance. So, yeah, they're all worthy. They're all in there. And we're talking about less than a touchdown that they give up as opposed to what they score.
Well, okay, absolutely. And we've talked about the difference between the win-loss record necessarily and the point differentials, and we focus on points. We realize that rankings, as far as the NFL are concerned, goes by win-loss first and foremost. But in addition to that, even when they're ranking offenses and things of that nature, the difference between the NFL and what we do is, in many cases, the NFL goes by yards. So they'll rank an offense and they'll say they're the number one offense, but it's based on their yardage.
Oh, in respect to their strength.
Yeah,
where they rank them.
Or their rankings on offense.
Right.
A lot of times it's
total yardage.
Yeah.
Total yardage.
Yeah. And we go by points.
Right.
So again, that's a difference between what we do and what they do. Speaking of points, there's a playoff team, Seattle, in ninth place, scoring 23.9 points per game. Jacksonville's behind them at 23.8, Miami 23.4, the Raiders 23.2, and the Chargers 23. Green Bay at 21.8, Atlanta and your Giants 21.5 points per game. So that's what you guys are scoring. And the reason I mentioned that, again, the differential, because Minnesota has been noticed, and we noticed it, a long time ago, but the media finally caught up and realized that these guys, their record is like 13-3 or something like that, or 14-3, but yet their net points is minus 0.2.
Right.
So that's just a real big divergence between the record and the net points. At least with your Giants, I mean, it's not to say that, it's a good thing, but at least your record isn't like looking like you should.
It kind of matches up.
Yeah, it kind of matches up with the net points. It doesn't look out of place. The Vikings thing just looks out of place, though. Defense, 8 average points against. You've got the Saints, Pittsburgh, Patriots, Jaguars, Tampa Bay, Tennessee, Denver, and Kansas City, ranging from 20.3 points per game allowed to 21.7. Got a three-way tie at 21.1 between Tampa Bay, Tennessee, and Denver. That's 13th through 15th. You got a two-way tie between Pittsburgh and the Patriots at 20.4. That's 10th and 11th. So those are your scoring. And as far as average turnover differential, it's only the 16th play that's negative at 16th place, with Cleveland at negative 0.1. Pittsburgh and Baltimore are 9th and 10th. And the Giants, three-way tie at plus 0.2. And another three-way tie between Green Bay, Seattle, and Minnesota at plus 0.1. And Buffalo breaks even in 15th place at 0. And I believe you said last year you're going to take 0 as a positive number?
Yes. Hey, we give it away. We take it away. It's a wash.
Anything on this before we move to the top 8?
No, let's go to the top 8, man. Let's look at the big guns.
The numero uno quartile. Can you say that 5 times fast?
No.
No, I
can't say it one time.
Yeah, I don't even want to try. all colored up in that first grouping. And again, net points. So you see how net points and playoff contention they're just congruent. Benny,
Yes.
I did not think that the Damar Hamlin AFC scenario would affect the NFC. I knew they had to shake a lot of stuff out in the AFC because, with one, they weren't going to count that game. And then how do they go into the playoffs and blah, blah, blah. Okay.
Right.
Knew that had to happen. But when I did these numbers, and again, these are all averages, you'll notice that Buffalo is number one at 10.6. These are all plus 10.6 points per game with a little asterisk next to it. And then San Francisco comes in at, do you believe, second? I don't think we sniffed this high, and I don't think we sniffed the top three. And I say we because it's my beloved Niners all year long. And then all of a sudden I look up and we're like second place, and I'm like, holy mackerel, Jimmy Christmas, this is a Brock Purdy happening. And okay, so then you go, okay, third, fourth, fifth, sixth, seventh, eighth. You've got Philly at 7.8, Kansas City 7.5, Dallas at 7.4, Cincinnati at 6, Jacksonville at 3.2, and Baltimore at 2.1 net points per game. Do you see that fine print there, Benny?
Yeah, I was struggling a little bit to read it, but I do see it.
The 49ers finished the season with the most gross net points at plus 173.
Okay.
The Bills complete the season with plus 169.
Okay.
The Bills, however, played one less game.
Right.
Which is why their average is higher than the Niners.
That's part of the reason, yeah.
But the reality is the Niners are number one in net points in the NFL. That's the reality.
I knew you.
That's
what you were going for.
Wow. That's the reality.
I knew that was what you were going for. But because they played one less game, we won't actually ever really, really know. But yeah, I feel you.
We know how many net points were scored. That we know. NFL, go to the NFL website. It's there. It's plus 173.
Okay.
Plus 173 is more than plus 169. Pretty much everywhere.
Everywhere.
Pretty much every. No, I was reading an article, and when he said that the Niners were first in net points, and I'm like, I had just finished this, and I'm like, huh? Wait a minute. So I actually had to go find that out, but I'm gonna leave it like that. This is the Damar Hamlin allowance. We're gonna let it. Okay, because I was gonna go to gross numbers and just. But we stuck with this. We did averages because of the bye weeks. That's why we did this, to keep it fair, as much as possible. But this is an anomaly of anomalies, man. So we'll have to remember, in history.
Yeah.
When the Niners were really number one, but we settled for the number two in terms of the sterling net point power rankings. And that somewhat hurts my heart because that is my
you'll get over it.
I'll get over it. I don't know. Scoring wise, the Kansas City Chiefs come in number one, followed by those Bills and the Philadelphia Eagles at 28.4 and 28.1 points per game. The 28-point group is that's the magic number as far as I'm concerned. You have behind them Dallas, Detroit, San Francisco, Cincinnati, and Minnesota. So that Minnesota defense, which was all the way in the fourth quartile?
Yep.
Was it? They're in the first quartile offensively, averaging 24.9 points per game. So you're going from 29.2 down to 24.9, about a 5-point difference there between and eighth place. We look over at defense, and again, this is where when we're looking for those teams that are kind of in the same quartile, that ranking differential isn't real large, and they're in a strong quartile, then that's the teams you want to look at, because if you look at Buffalo and net points, they're right there first. They're right there second offensively. If we slip over the defense, you see they're right there second again. Niners are in first place, allowing 16.3 points per game on average. So it's just a wonderful thing to have a defense. And apparently they did hit the historic mark, Ben. I think it went 14 games where the team that they played lost the following week.
Wow.
I don't even know how to take this. I'm like, oh, these guys is hitting out there. They putting it down on guys.
They're putting not only physical problems on these teams, but mental problems as well. You know, having to prepare for certain teams can take a lot out of you too. You know,
Okay,
because of what
Coach,
they
I
come
hear
at
you.
you with. Having to deal with it during the week in preparation, and then deal with it with in-game.
I think I know what you're saying. You know,
Yeah,
adjustments.
that could take a toll on your coaching staff and your players.
Shoot, from what I understand, Bosa
Adjustments. That's the word I was looking for.
adjustments, right? Bosa is his sacks or something are like 5 or some plus more than anybody else in the league right now. He's like the most disruptive force coming off the defensive line right now.
Yep.
So yeah, you're right. And again, I'm the Madden guy. You're the fantasy guy. And when I look at my Madden rankings, and believe me, they're updating these Madden rankings almost daily, like over the last month. I mean, every time I look up, it's been updated. It's updated. Most of our backs are still rated in the 70s. You know, I don't have a lot of 90 rated, you know, defensive backs and all that. There's not a lot of what's his name over in the Rams, the big cornerback they have.
Oh, Ramsey?
Ramsey, yeah. We don't have a lot of Ramseys running around back there.
Right.
But apparently these guys play very cohesively. And like I said, it don't take a lot of talent to hit the slop out of somebody. He has attitude. So they're coming with it. So you got Baltimore there in third place at 18.5 points per game. So they're holding up the ship relative to keeping them playoff contention. The Jets, you know, who struggled on offense, got a decent defense coming in at fourth, allowing 18.6 points per game. Then you've got Dallas. So Dallas is fourth on offense and fifth on defense. They're scoring 27.5. They're allowing 20.1 points per game. Cincinnati allowing 20.1, just like Dallas. And then you've got Washington and Philadelphia allowing 20.2 points per game. So Philly has the lowest of the top 8 there in terms of points allowed. Another area that I have to stick my chest out a little bit for my Niners is an average turnover differential, where they came in first at plus 0.8. That is just warms my heart. Dallas comes in second, 0.6, Philly 0.5, Detroit and New England and Cincinnati at 0.4. And again, these are all positive numbers. Jacksonville and the Chargers at 0.3. So, you know, that's big. That's big right there, man. And you know, the when I look at these, and when we get into the matchups, I'll talk a little bit more about the recency, what they've been doing in the last few weeks, because these are season numbers. This is you know, what's going to go in for the 2022-2023 season for the regular season rankings, and as far as history is concerned. So I definitely had to put that little asterisk in there.
Mm-hmm.
But that is an anomaly. That's the Damar Hamlin charity. I don't know what we call it, charity or whatever, allowance.
Effect.
But, yeah, effect. We'll just call it the effect. I like that, the Damar Hamlin effect. So, and you know, it's funny, as we get ready to go into the matchups, Benny, I was talking to Mark Russell, and I said to him, I said, you know, I want my Niners there in the Super Bowl. I said, but it would be a really interesting Super Bowl to have two teams that can play 11 on 11 ball when you're talking about Buffalo and the Eagles, you know. That would be an interesting Super Bowl. Probably the only
Yes, it
Super
would.
Bowl of its type. What do you think?
I agree with that. It would be.
Yeah, that would be an interesting Super Bowl. So we have to do our best not to allow that to happen, however. Yeah, there we go. You ready to go into the matchups?
Yes, sir.
All right, we're going to kick it off now. This is Super Wild Card weekend. So you got a couple games on Saturday. You got a few games on Sunday. And I think the NFL gods heard us moaning and weeping about no Monday night football. So they granted us a Monday night game.
Right. How nice.
How nice of them, you know. But this is the best of football. This is where you get to see the whole game. You know what I mean? As much as we love Red Zone, we also like to be able to sit down and see a whole game between two really good teams.
Oh, absolutely.
So here we go with the first one. My Niners opening up with the Seahawks coming into Levi Stadium. You got a big bias plus score of 12.6, favoring the 49ers. And Ben, I hear that they say it's really hard to beat a team 3 times in one season.
Yeah, that's been said quite a bit. I don't know how true that is. I would have to check that out statistically. But, ever since I was growing up and had anything to do with sports, you would hear that all the time. Sometimes it worked out, sometimes it didn't. How actually factually true it is, I don't know. But the Seahawks going on the road, got to go to Levi. In order to get into the playoffs, they needed to defeat the Rams. They got that done. On top of that, they needed the Lions to beat the Packers. And I'm sure they all had their eyes glued to the television set, and the Lions actually did beat the Packers. So here we go with the Seattle Seahawks into the playoffs. A lot of people thought that was a long shot for both things to happen, but it did happen. Now the Seahawks got to face what I'm considering the hottest team in the league. Niners have won like 10 games in a row. Is that correct?
Yeah, something like that.
Okay. And although Geno Smith had a career year, he was shaky against the Rams. He threw 1 touchdown, but he threw 2 interceptions. But he got bailed out by Kenny Walker, who had a big day on the ground, and kicker Jason Myers, who kicked 4 field goals to help them get the win that they had to have. So that was big time for them. We'll look for Geno to rebound and make this game interesting. But meanwhile, the Niners blew out the Cardinals, continued their dominant ways. 10 wins in a row is nothing at all to sneeze about. I got to take the Niners.
Purdy's jersey is already in the Hall of Fame, the NFL Hall of Fame. And over the last 3 weeks, Ben, they have scored or averaged 37.3 points per game, first in the NFL.
Unbelievable.
And all I can think of is our show in the preseason when we did the draft. Right. And I'm going, the Niners took a quarterback last in the draft?
Very last pick of the draft.
They took a quarterback?
Of all things, right?
It blew my mind.
Everything seemed so clear back then. We're going to get rid of Jimmy. It's Trey Lance's show. Here we go. Everything was looking like it was all good. So I scratched my head too. A quarterback, really?
This has been a really interesting season. You talked about your win-loss record for week 18. I did go back, Benny, and I took a look, and I'll just mention this real quick. Well, no, I'm gonna hold off on this. I'm gonna give you the summary of what happened with the picks. So as of right now, you're gonna go with the Niners. You're not afraid of the Brock Purdy rookie, never won in a playoff game in history situation.
Not after these last couple, not after last week, and not after that Raiders game. No.
He's an interesting guy mentally, man. I don't know if he might have Joe Burrow level confidence.
Bro, I kind of thought about that fleetingly, but I thought that was kind of really high praise at this moment. But I'm telling you, people didn't believe Joe Burrow was going to be Joe Burrow. They didn't.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I mean, they're talking about Joe Burrow on morning TV. I mean, he's walking into the game. He's got the turtleneck and the sunglasses. I mean, Joe Namath had nothing on Joe Burrow. You know what I mean? Comes to coming and smiling and styling. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
Yeah, definitely. Okay, so you're going with the bias, going with the Niners. That's a nice, healthy bias at 12.6. That's going to be an interesting game. Going to be an interesting game. I liked Walker. I brought up Walker, their running back. But guess who's back? Mitchell.
Elijah Mitchell, and he looked good.
Can you look at this backfield they're sporting there, man?
Oh, we say that every year.
Yeah, I know, but I mean, this
year when we talk about the Niners, every stinking year when we talk about the Niners, we go, what a stable of running backs these got. If Shanahan can't do nothing else when it comes to picking players, he can get him some running backs.
I got to give him that, unless there's somebody in that organization that we don't know about.
Well, I'm sure they have scouts that help and all that.
Yeah, it's probably good.
All that's important.
But I mean, even when you look outside the Niners, I'm looking across the NFL and I see ex-Niner running backs. Your Giants, Breida, ex-Niner running back. Buffalo and Miami, and I was like, gee, Christmas, how many running backs did we have roll through?
Right.
So I mean,
they all had their moments of pretty good success when they were with the Niners too. Even though they may be still successful where they are, or possibly maybe not so successful, especially when we talk about Breida. Matter of fact, of the bunch, Mostert and all these guys, when you try to think about them, Breida is probably the one that's had the toughest time after leaving.
Okay.
But everybody else is pretty much looking good, man.
Mostert just got what's the stick that they have on Good Morning Football?
Oh, the angry run thing?
Angry run. He just got like the angry run thing. He's showing his angry run scepter. He got a cast on one hand.
Yeah, he got a broken thumb.
He got a broken thumb. So yeah, absolutely. But with Mitchell's back, and I'm seeing more Tyrion Davis Price play. Of course, McCaffrey. That's probably the one trade of the year that I don't see any other trade that's benefited any team. Well, maybe AJ Brown.
Yeah, probably. Yeah. I would agree with that. With that.
Maybe AJ Brown to the Eagles, but it's that level of impact on the new team, for a trade.
Perfect fit.
An amazing fit, you know. And again, I think it takes some pressure off of Debo to have to be, Mr. Everything, in the backfield and all of that. And I look forward to them using Debo. And then I'll say this. I was talking to a young guy about the Niners and about Brock Purdy. And I said, Brock Purdy has two things that he does apparently really well. One I read about, and they said he has a pretty quick first 10 yards. Okay, I don't know what he does in the 40, but I think his first 10 are pretty fast, and that's really good if you're a quarterback. Right. If you have that level of quickness. I said, and the other thing he does really well, probably better than any quarterback that I've seen quarterback the 49ers in recent times, is he knows how to find George Kittle.
Boy, does he ever. He loves Kittle more than Garoppolo did.
And you know what I'm saying? Kittle is now, I mean, people are beginning to see why I like Kittle, as much or more than Kelsey even, Kittle's more physical. Kelsey's smooth and slippery, he'll run kind of, Kittle just wants to run over you and stop you and keep on into the end zone, and as always said, he should be the primary receiver. Everything else, once you establish a Kittle, it opens up everything. So, I'm just really, amazed to see what's going on. This is historic. And the Seahawks are coming in, and I don't think the Seahawks are favored also by Vegas. I have to take a quick look, but
no, there's no way.
All right, so let's move on. I've had my fun talking about my Niners.
I was going to say, you're going to talk about every game like this?
No. Chargers,
No, it's your
Jaguars,
boys.
2.8 favorite Chargers. I mean, favorite the Jaguars. So, okay, let's go. That's next.
Now you in a rush.
We're going to rush through it now. But the Jaguars favored over the Chargers here, man. Again, you look at net points, net point differential. You know, we talked about that. And then, you know, you add in the turnover differential. And in this particular case, again, the Jaguars, it's close, 2.8. That's less than a field goal, favors the Jaguars over the Chargers. So what do you got on that, Benny?
Well, this is a situation talking about the LA Chargers where sometimes the controversy between rest over rust can sometimes go wrong for you. So the Chargers have the number 5 seed already locked up. They still decided to play most of their starters for most of the game. Me personally, I had no problem with them starting most of the starters, but I did have a bit of a problem for them keeping them in the game as long as they did. Unfortunately, the unfortunate thing that came out of this is 2 major players suffered injuries. Number 1 was Mike Williams, the wide receiver, who went out with a back injury, and it did not look good at all. Right now, I'm sure he's still questionable to be able to play in this game. I don't think he's been ruled out yet, but it did not look good. So we're hoping that Mike Williams can make his way back so that he can play in this game because they're going to need him. Defensive end Joey Bosa, who had just come back from a groin injury, was seen limping around on the sideline. So again, he may have re-injured that groin. Hopefully it's not that bad. He's going to be questionable going into this game. Those are 2 major players for the Chargers that got hurt in the game where the coach had the opportunity to not play them, decided that he would, and went on and did it. So also, I was curious as to why they didn't make a more serious effort to run the ball. Eckler had like maybe 10, 11 carries. And then your starting quarterback, who you decided to start in a game that didn't really mean anything, ended up throwing the ball 37 times. That put him in harm's way too. He didn't get hurt. I'm just saying. That's kind of crazy. If you decide you're going to do that, I'm coming with a different kind of game plan. But that's just me. What do I know? Meanwhile, they got to go see the Jaguars. Jaguars got the home field in this one. And kudos to Doug Peterson for a job well done with a really young team and a young emerging quarterback in Trevor Lawrence. He's done a great job with these guys. And their offense played well last week, as they've played pretty well coming down the stretch at the end of the season here. But the defense really shined for me. I was watching red zones, but they were kind of on quite a bit. I almost saw the entire game, and I saw a good number of highlights. The defense really, really shined against the Titans. They got 4 sacks on our guy Josh Dobbs, who I really like and hope he gets to compete for the job next year. Sorry, Malik Willis fans. I had to get that. I like Josh Dobbs. I like Josh Dobbs. But anyway, they sacked him 4 times. They hit him 13 times, and they picked him off. They also made it a tough day for Derrick Henry. He had to get 30 carries to get 109 yards. That's a lot of work for 109 yards. But he came through unscathed. Unfortunately, the Titans did not make the playoffs because they needed that win. I am going to go, and you know I've been talking about the Chargers for the last couple of years in our preseason show. I picked them to go really far. But I tell you, I'm disappointed. And I don't know if I'm as disappointed in the players as I am in the coach. You talked about Brandon Staley early in this show here, and I didn't say too much, but yeah, I kind of agree with you. This guy's on the hot seat. I don't know what the heck is going on here. Last week's game really disappointed me. I am going to take the Jaguars to beat the Chargers.
Going with the bias.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, and I know you like that Charger quarterback there, so I know.
I do, but unfortunately, it's not just him.
Yeah. That's You don't know about the coach. You don't know about the coach. That's the question. And Doug Peterson, what a turnaround. He's going to be in the history books from worst to first type of movement for a team. So
Yep.
congratulations to him. All right, going with the bias, going with the Jaguars. All right. Speaking of the Dolphins, they got to go visit the Bills. Another 12.3 type of bias plus score favoring those Buffalo Bills. And I know that's
Yeah, old
your favorite
Miami.
AFC team.
My number one favorite AFC team, the Buffalo Bills. Yes, they will host the Miami Dolphins, who limped into the playoffs with a little shabby little win over the Jets. Rookie quarterback Skylar Thompson did just enough to get the job done. Kudos to him being a rookie, getting the job done. Teddy Two Gloves has a broken pinky. Tua, who we talked about earlier in reference to him possibly thinking about retiring, or maybe us feeling like he needs to start thinking about retiring. He has not passed the concussion protocol yet. It's been weeks.
He self-reported. I think they said the last time he was cool, and then he let them know. As far as they're concerned,
Yeah.
he was good, and then he let them know. Apparently,
Yeah,
so,
yeah. So they put him back in the protocol.
I personally think he should just take a year off, at least.
At least.
Just take a year off. Go through your cognitive inspections and your medical stuff to have them take a look at you and make sure and see what's going on. He's going to have to be monitored probably the rest of his life at this particular point. But take a year off, man. He could probably, I don't know if he would want to do this, but they'd love him up in the booth. You know what I mean?
I'll tell you, if he goes through the offseason and goes through all the tests and sees all the doctors and really thinks about it, it wouldn't be unprecedented, because remember, Andrew Luck retired early, mainly because of concussions.
Was that his main reason?
I believe that was his main. He had a lot of injuries, but he
I
was
knew he had
concussed.
injuries. I wasn't sure he had a lot of concussions, though.
Yeah, he was concussed several times.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, it's a collision sport,
tough decision.
Benny.
It's a tough decision. It's a tough sport. Something he has to look at.
It's a collision sport. And you know what I thought about in terms of Tua? I thought about the boxer who was extremely skilled, and looked like he had some promise, but he had a glass jaw.
Exactly. That's it exactly. As long as he could avoid getting hit, he looked beautiful. I know what you're talking about. That's a good analogy.
You breathe hard on that chin, and he's like, bang!
Yeah, Mr. Glass. So, Buffalo Bills. We talked about DeMar. We'll talk about DeMar more, I'm sure. I'm going to leave that part out, but I will say this. Josh Allen, at the beginning of this game, said this was one of the most incredible plays for what happened, how it happened, and when it happened that he ever saw, that had the biggest impact on him in his entire football career. And that was Nyheim Hines opening the game with a kickoff return for a touchdown. Boy, was that big. And let me get this right, because it just popped back in my head. I wasn't planning to say it. That was the first kickoff return the Buffalo Bills have had in exactly 3 years and 3 months. 3 being DeMar's number.
My favorite number is 3.
Is it?
Yeah.
I did not know that.
Yeah. I something about threes. I've always liked threes. My corporation, that number would be in it. I won't say what the corporate name is, but so when they said that about the threes, and as he said it was absolutely spiritual.
Yeah.
That was very interesting. And not being a very religious person, but being a person who does believe that the universe does impact us, and we're a part of it. So it doesn't surprise me,
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I don't know if it was you that I reached out to. I said, oh, I know it was, I posted on Facebook. I said, I'm sitting here trying to figure out which game to watch. And I'm like, okay, I'll watch the Bills. So I clicked the Bills on, and he runs the thing back for a touchdown.
As soon as you cut it on.
As soon as I cut it on, I'm like, geez,
Amazing.
great choice.
Yeah.
What a pick.
Yeah. I tell you, they look like they're ready for a long playoff run. They really, really do. They play really well on both sides of the ball. And guess what? I got some more threes for you. Josh Allen threw 3 touchdown passes, and the defense intercepted Mac Jones 3 times.
Oh my goodness. The three was just having a field day.
Threes.
Jeez.
So obviously I'm taking the Bills.
Yeah. 12.3 bias plus score. Couldn't be 12, had to be 12.3. Included there.
I've been with the bias every game.
Huh?
I said I've been with the bias every game.
Well, if it makes sense, it makes sense. I know
I'll tell you what makes sense. As we were going through the report or going through the numbers, I was looking a little bit more. Since we had so few games, I was able to analyze where each matchup, each team was in each category, which I don't usually take the time to do mentally while we're going through the rankings. And it just made sense. I picked all the teams I picked to win. I picked it before we started the segment. Normally I pick them during the segment.
Okay. But you saw the numbers. The numbers are what they are,
Yep.
you understand and believe. So let's face it. Because next up, we have your New York Giants. Now, Benny, I'm loving this because now you got to go in and defeat your Kirk Cousins.
Don't say my Kirk Cousins. Just because I defend Kirk Cousins.
Get them Giants. Get them Giants.
Just because I defend Kirk Cousins a lot doesn't mean I'm like a big fan of his or nothing. Kirk Cousins is a good quarterback. And I don't like when people demean a guy because he has some issues here and there. The guy's been winning games. The guy's been putting up numbers.
Some issues here and there.
Those
issues happen right at prime time, crux time when the game's on the line. That's when those issues
He's made his mistakes, but who hasn't?
It's when. It's all about when. You could have one mind.
And guess what? They're 13-3, and they're 13-3. So if it's all about winning and they're 13-3, then he's been doing all right.
You can defend him, but I do have this much to say to you. The bias plus score of 0.2 favors who, Benny?
Yeah, I know, the Giants. So here we go.
Wait. You said you looked at the rankings.
Yes, I did.
Does that make sense?
Yes, it does.
No, it don't.
Yes, it does. It doesn't make sense win-loss wise. But it does make sense numbers-wise.
No, it doesn't.
Why doesn't it?
Why doesn't it? Okay, because the Giants are 16th in net points, and Vikings are 15th.
Okay.
Giants are minus 0.4, and the Vikings are minus 0.2.
Okay.
So that means that the Minnesota Vikings, net point-wise, are favored over the Giants.
Right. But it makes sense because
why?
Why do the Giants have the bias?
That's what I'm going to explain. And that's why this is going to be the intriguing game of the week.
At last. At last, my team gets to be the intriguing game of the week. Turnovers, baby.
Turnovers, Benny. You guys won the turnover differential battle, and it switched the bias.
That's right. I said I looked at the numbers.
Okay, so you looked all the way across. Okay, all right. Yeah. I give it to you then. Got to give it to you.
Yeah. I didn't do the number. I didn't do the math. But I'm like, there's my advantage right there.
There was your advantage. I'm laughing. I'm going, oh, snap. Wait till Benny sees he's favored over his Kirk Cousins. Hey. And it came down to turnovers of all things.
Of all things.
Man, oh, man, it's Shevitz. Okay, so what do you got? Because last week you picked the Giants.
Yeah, I picked the Giants last week. Yeah.
Yeah.
Did I?
Over the Eagles.
Right, I did.
Couldn't help yourself.
And again, that was one of those games where I said, don't sue me. I'm going to pick the Giants, but I don't know if they're going to. At the time that we did the show, I didn't know who they were going to rest or anything. I was pretty sure they weren't going to let Saquon play. I didn't know if Daniel Jones maybe start the game and not finish it or something like that. So I had no idea. Instead, they threw me a big curve. I thought they'd go with Tyrod Taylor. They came in with Davis Webb, and Davis Webb made it a game. It was actually a bit of a game. He threatened these guys. The Eagles had to be shaken a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
But anyway, so the Giants had the 6th seed already secured. Obviously, they chose to rest a lot of their starters, and they went with Davis Webb at quarterback. He actually made things interesting, and the Eagles looked a little bit sluggish, but they did get the job done. The main thing is that the Giants go into the playoffs relatively healthy, which was the goal, having had the 6th seed already locked up. So that's a good deal for the Giants. The Vikings got their act back together against Chicago after they got blown out the week before by Green Bay. But I'm not exactly sure they're completely over that. I'm going to stick with the bias. I'm going to take the New York Football Giants to go to Minnesota and win that game.
Yeah, just you saying the Vikings over the Bears, like they really did something. I mean, that's the Bears. You know what I mean?
Right.
It's like, geez, so wow. But yeah, this is going to be the intriguing game of the week. I'm going to pull out all the stops and everything and take a close look at this. And maybe I can find some of those Kirk Cousins lowlights that I love so much.
Oh God. It's okay. It's all right. I can't defend him this week.
Can't even defend them, eh?
Not against my team. You kidding me? No way.
I'm loving it. This is almost as much fun as hearing Eagle fans excoriate their team. Almost as much fun. Not quite as much fun as that, though. It
can't be as much. I'm talking about a player, not a team. Stop it. Come on, man. Give me a break.
All right, what's next? This is the third of the Saturday game, or the Sunday games, rather.
Sunday game, yeah.
But you still got the game coming up. Okay. Ravens at Bengals, bias plus score 4.7 favors the Bengals. Ravens are without Lamar, and I believe they will be.
Yeah, it's looking like Lamar's not going to play. His name's been getting kicked around a lot this week in reference to his contract and how he feels about whether he should play or should not play. I've also heard that his injury was a little worse than they first suspected, that he really is not ready to play. Whether or not he's at the point where he could possibly suck it up and go out there, it remains to be seen. I really don't know. But some people are saying, you know what, he shouldn't play anyway. But that's a whole nother story. This is a rematch or a rerun of last week's game. The big difference is we're now in the tournament, okay, the NFL playoffs. Last week, the Ravens chose to rest several of their starters, not just the guys that were clearly injured. And the Bengals built an early lead, and then they coasted to the win. So couldn't tell too much by that. But when I look at the numbers and I look at the two teams health-wise, I have to go with the Bengals. I'm going with the Bengals.
I mean, it makes sense. I mean, let's face it, the Bengals, I played a Madden game against the Bengals. And I had to play them a second time because the first time I got shut out 14-0. Those guys are no joke, even in the realm of gaming. So the Bengals and the Ravens, and again, without Lamar, that's what, 10 points? Is a 10-point differential,
right? 10-point difference
Lamar and everybody else,
and any other quarterback the Bengals, the Ravens can put out there.
Yeah. And that's even considering, as we always say, they pretty much have quarterbacks that can run the same system.
Right.
You know,
Well,
that's
you know what? This is a big game for Tyler Huntley. His future. I mean, I think he's already done really well for himself, having come in and played several games since Lamar's been hurt.
okay.
And the trend toward dual threat quarterbacks and all that stuff. And I'm not to say that he runs as much as Lamar or as well as Lamar, but he has the capabilities. Okay. Whether or not he stays there, or whether when his contract runs out, he decides to go to the free agent market or whatever, this guy's got a lot of positive stuff on tape, man. This is going to be a big, big game for him and where he goes in his future in the NFL. So good luck to him, but I don't see him being able to pull this game out.
Just quick, and as far as Tyler Huntley is concerned, is he? Do you think he's better in an option type offense or in the more conventional offense, being maybe more of a pocket guy with mobility as opposed to a running quarterback? Any idea?
I wouldn't want to guess that. Okay. I think he could be proficient at either one. So it would depend on what team he's playing on.
Okay. All right. Well, that's what I was wondering, you know, what teams would he be better at, you know?
Yeah. He doesn't need to have a lot of run plays called for him within the offense to be successful. He's got a pretty good arm. He's got good accuracy. He's proven he can move an offense.
There you go. There you go. That's what I'm talking about. All right. All right. Ravens at Bengals. Ben's going with the bias. I know you don't like this, Benny, but hey, you got to go with it.
Got to go with it.
Monday night, Cowboys at Buccaneers.
I thought this would be your intriguing game.
Is that what you thought?
If you had asked me to guess, I would have guessed this one.
Well, you know, a bias plus score of 12.8 favors the Cowboys. It's we got what, one or two 12-point biases. I think it was the Bills and the Niners. So, you know, I usually I look at the extremes, really, you know, outsized favorite or, you know, one that's really close. In your case, like I said, the reason, you know, it turned on turnovers, you know, that's small of a difference. And even though the win-loss record looks pretty significantly favoring, you know, the Vikings. In this particular case, the Buccaneers just haven't gotten it done. You know, I believe that, you know, in the last few years, Brady needs Gronk to be Brady, and he don't have Gronk now, so he's not going to be Brady. The Buccaneers defense has been decent, not great, you know, been decent. I mean, you can't, you know, I'm not going to down them too much. I'm just looking at over the last 3 weeks where they kind of fell in, and I guess that's why I'm saying not great. 23.3 points per game allowed. First place for reference sake over the last 3 weeks has been Jacksonville at 7.3 points per game. So, you know, most of these other teams that are in the running, you know, are less than 20 points per game. So for Tampa Bay to be giving up that many points doesn't bode well for them.
Right.
The question is, I guess everybody's questioning Dak and turnovers. Is Dak going to give up this game in turnover wise? And I still believe that, you know, that the trend will continue. I don't think the Buccaneers are going to be outsized, you know, all of a sudden play so great. But you never know. So I guess you're looking at the GOAT here. I don't know, Benny. You're looking at the GOAT. The GOAT versus Dak. You know what the Eagles like to say? He's just not that good. You know, that's what the Eagles like to say.
Just not that
good. They crack me. I like you. The Eagles focus more on the Cowboys than anybody I know focuses on any other team. Any fan of any team to focus on any other team. I can't think of any other. Like the Vikings, do they focus on the Packers? All the Vikings fans go Packers, Packers, Packers all the time.
You're talking about the fans, right?
The fans, yeah.
Yeah, I agree. I was talking to somebody who's not really that big into sports, and we're talking about rivalries, and I was talking about, Sixers, Celtics, and all that stuff. And believe me, yeah, Cowboys, Eagles, when it comes to the fans, well, when it comes to the Eagles fans, I don't even think Cowboys fans care that much. Only
I'm
Cowboys
talking
fans
about Eagle fans, definitely.
right. Only Cowboy fans that live in Philadelphia are as obsessed with the Eagles as Eagle fans are obsessed with the Cowboys.
I think that's a fair assessment.
Yeah, yeah.
Assessment.
But anyway, speaking of the Cowboys who have to go on the road down here to Florida, they completely crapped the bed last week. And they crapped the bed against the Commanders.
Say it right, Benny.
The Commanders. And they looked really, really bad doing it. And most of the badness, if that's a word, is focused on Dak. So, yeah, I understand what you're saying about that. The Bucs were already locked into the 4 seed, but Brady and most of the starters still started the game anyway, but they didn't play long. Some played the first half. I think Brady was out of there after like a quarter or something. But needless to say, I'm sorry, they still got smacked around by the lowly Atlanta Falcons. So I don't know. The defense has not been as strong as they normally are. Brady hasn't looked as good as he normally has. I don't see that changing between last week or this past season and this week coming into the playoffs. Dak has been a liability throwing the ball away. Basically, the only way that I see the Cowboys not winning this game is if Dak implodes again, which could possibly happen. But I can't make my pick on possibilities. So I'm going to go with the bias one more time and take the Cowboys.
Yeah, it's crazy. And I understand that there's a big difference as far as how the Cowboys play on natural grass as opposed to turf.
Oh, okay.
I understand their turf play is great. They're home, they're in the dome. But when it comes to grass, I think they slow down or something happens, and then just not as effective. So
I have to go back and look at that.
Yeah, that could add up to a little help for the Buccaneers. But then you've got Tom. I still think he's a bit of a statue. He gets rid of the ball and all of that. Great. He reads all of that. Tom's still Tom. But you got what's the DN for the Cowboys?
Oh, Micah Parsons.
Yeah, he's got to be biting at the bit.
Oh, I'm sure. Oh, yeah. He would love to sack Brady a few times if he could.
He's probably salivating at the thought. You don't have to chase somebody around. Somebody's not going to be running away from him.
and a big part of the Buccaneers' problems all season long has been their offensive line.
Offensive line, you got to kind of keep that guy in mind, and when you're in your offensive plan, your blocking strategies and all of that, pretty much every time.
I remember something else. Yes, you want to put pressure on Brady. Yes, the key to beating them is keeping pressure on Brady. But most of all, people forget Brady is a master of work in the pocket. His footwork in the pocket is magnificent. Where you get him with pressure is up the middle. When you chase him, when you come at him up the middle with strong pressure up the middle, that's where he really gets rattled and gets off his square. He deals with good pressure from the outside because he can manipulate the pocket and he can step up and he get rid of the ball. Not saying good rushes from the outside won't give him problems. They will. But you have a better chance of really controlling him if you get that pressure up the middle. Whether the Cowboys can do that or not, I don't know. Now, I know they do move Parsons around a bit. This might be a game where you might want to play some games and move him around, stick him in at tackle, have him line up a linebacker and come like a blitzer. Different games like that. That could give Brady a lot of trouble too. Either way, I think the Cowboys win this game.
Yeah, I think they just ought to be able to handle this. And playoff Lenny hasn't really been doing a whole bunch.
Nah.
Not unless it wasn't playoff time, and
maybe he turns it on now, right?
He's like, I'm playoff Lenny, not regular season.
Yeah, I'm not regular season Lenny.
So, It says here, is grass really a Cowboys kryptonite? As after Jason Garrett pointed out how the Cowboys defense appeared to slow when on natural grass surfaces. Brett
Really?
Coleman ran the numbers and included the Cowboys defense is second best in the NFL on turf at minus 0.149 expected points allowed, but only number 20th on grass at minus 0.7 points expected allowed. So
that's interesting.
Yeah, and I wasn't even thinking defense. I was thinking offense, but they're saying their defense slows down a little bit. So that is an issue. That is an issue there. And you're absolutely right about Tom Brady, as far as that middle is concerned, and can they get that push up the middle to really, push him off his square, So, all right, but I don't think that all that being said, Dak's really going to have to screw up. He's going to have to throw 2 or 3 interceptions for the Buccaneers to win this game, I do believe. So hopefully, that won't happen. So I don't care if it does or not. I'm not a Cowboy or Bucks fan. Niners, baby. All right, Benny, what do we got after this? The Bias Plus Buster of the Week, your Washington. Come on, say it with me, Benny.
Washington Commanders, congratulations. And a job well done, I must say. Oh, by the way, Sam Howell is now in the quarterback mix for the Washington Commanders. Boy, training camp next year is going to be very interesting for them. The draft, too, I got to see what's going to happen here. Wentz is still there. Heineke's still there. Sam Howell showed off in that game.
Well, Sam Howell was willing to play 11-11 on football.
How about that?
I
guess he said, I ain't got nothing to lose.
Got nothing to lose. You know what I mean? So let's go for it. Unfavorable bias was 6. They were 16.1 underdogs. Okay, to the Dallas Cowboys. Now we just finished looking at a bias of what, 12?
12.8. Favoring
the Cowboys. It was 16 favoring those guys against the Commanders, and they won by 20. It's for a bias plus score of 36.1, Benny. So again, congratulations to the Washington Commanders.
Good job.
Great job. Now, normally that's it for us, but because this was the end of the season, Benny, I just wanted to report that the Bias Plus Report season win-loss record was 66%.
Good job.
For the season. And, we really started off, one of the things that tipped us off that this was not going to be your everyday average season was how crazy the early games were. And the bias was coming up at 34, 40% in that range early on.
Yep.
A lot of unexpected wins and losses. And we talked about how that might affect even Vegas and the odds makers were catching heck and all of that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
But then later in the season, the trends took a hold. The cream began to rise to the top. And the bias plus the net point differentials, et cetera, held. And so we wound up at 66%. I believe last week it was 75% for the week.
For the week, okay.
For the week, yeah. I believe
that's excellent.
5%. Yeah, especially considering, again, you didn't know who was playing, who wasn't playing.
Right.
And all that kind of good stuff. And here, Benny, is our list of the Bias Plus Buster teams for the season. Now, you didn't have a Bias Plus Buster for after week 1 because we didn't have any net points. As week 1 starts, everybody gets a blank slate, 0.0, right. Play a game, and then it's week 2 and after that. But the Panthers, 3-time winners of the Bias Plus Buster Award. And second, number 2, you have the Packers, the Commanders, and the Lions, each winning 2. And then your Colts, Cardinals, Patriots, Falcons, Saints, Jets, Browns, and Rams. Rams surprised everybody about a week or 2 ago, didn't they?
Right.
With 1. So here are, that's a nice little one. You got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12 out of 32 teams took the Bias Plus Buster Award home last week, or over the season rather. So, congratulations to these teams who overcame being the underdog and won their games. Anything
Yeah.
else on that?
Panthers 3 times. Good luck to Steve Wilkes, hoping he can, if not secure a head coaching job somewhere else, can hold on and get the interim tag taken off and become the actual head coach of the Panthers. I know they're having a coaching search right now. They're interviewing guys. They interviewed Harbaugh, trying to get him away from Michigan. So we'll see.
I'm telling you. So we celebrate even the fact that we get things wrong because it's funny. What is it? A commercial where the guy's saying, "Well, you can't win every week."
Right.
And he said, "Oh, wait a minute. There was a team that won every week." It was Miami Dolphins. Yes, they did. So there you go. All right, let's take a quick look at the page, run through a few things, and then wrap it up then, Benny. Okay, Benny, let's go to the Ben and Barry Facebook page. We're going to take a look at some of the posts over the last week or so. Again, for anyone that watches Ben and Barry on football, know that our motto is football is life. And so we always focus on the lives of the people involved. Everyone was really tied up with Damar Hamlin and what happened with him, but not a lot of people knew what was going on with Peyton Hillis, who saved his 2 children from drowning and then wound up in intensive care himself.
I didn't hear about this. His kids?
Yeah.
What happened?
I don't know how they were drowning, where they were at. I don't know if it was a pool or a beach or whatever. I just know that he saved them and then wound up in intensive care. And where Damar Hamlin was pretty much out within about a week or so, he's been there and has not yet, hasn't improved as quickly and surely as Damar Hamlin did.
Right.
So I just wanted to mention that. Mention also, we said thanks to Denny Kellington. So I said the athletes are not the only well-trained team on the field. He was the medical person on the sideline that came over and was apparently gave the CPR and all of that stuff, administered all of that. And they I don't know the name of the young man, but apparently they were saying that they wanted to give a little kudos to the equipment manager, because in order for them to do what Kellington did, they had to get his mask and stuff off.
Yeah, and they said the guy got it off like super fast.
Super fast, yeah. So well trained. It's one of those things where people talk about the NFL's not this and not that. Well, these are some of the things that they are that you might not recognize because they're just sitting there in most cases. They're not brought in, until something like this serious happens. But it's really good to know that they were that prepared for something as serious as it was. So where moments literally made the difference between life and death.
Yeah. Real quick, Peyton Hillis was in Pensacola, Florida. His kids were swimming. They were at a beach, and he saw that they were having some problems and they were actually drowning, and he went into the water to save them. But now, in his effort to save them, which he actually did, both kids are fine, but he's in intensive care right now.
Crazy. All right. Well, all the best to him and his family. We do have some highlights on our page. There's nothing we like more than football highlights, right, Benny?
Yeah, what do you got?
Well, this is all 17 games, so just let people know.
Oh, okay.
And they can see the highlights.
That's cool.
From the games. Also, just to know, the Bengals were the only team that wasn't happy with the settlement and the way they decided to go with not playing the game and then the coin flip and all of that. So they were
Well,
not happy about that.
they weren't happy with it, but because they won that game against the Ravens, they didn't have to go with it.
Right.
The coin
Right.
flip, I mean. So
Okay.
they took care of that.
They took care of that. Took care of their own business.
Right.
Eliminated that issue. That's what I'm talking about. Corey got a little bit of play, Benny.
Yeah, I saw it. Did he score a touchdown?
Clement.
Did he score?
Not only did he score, but he got big name Corey Clement at the end of red zone when they did every touchdown from every game. And I'm like talking to his dad. I'm like, dude, I'm kind of messed up here because I'm kind of rooting for Corey, but he's scoring on my team.
Yeah.
But that's okay. We let him get his. He got his shine on. We got the game, and that's so everything balanced out correctly. But yeah, he got some run in this game, and he looked pretty good actually. He got some nice long runs off.
Well, we'll keep our fingers crossed that he gets picked up and actually used. The guy can play.
Yeah, exactly. So congratulations to Corey Clement, right across the river there in New Jersey, is where he came from. And so the NFL coaching carousel has begun, Benny. Did you have anything you wanted to say about what's going on with the firings and the hirings and the this and the that? I'll simply say this. I asked that we all follow the coach's mantra. You play to win the game. And Houston Texans coach, who, from what I understand, knew he would be fired if he won the game, went for it. The 2-point conversion. Let's go. We winning this thing. Oh, man.
Lovey.
Lovey. I'm just
Lovey
so
with the
proud
perfect beard. Lovey with the perfect beard, Smith.
With the
Gotta
perfect beard.
He said, the heck with you bums. Fire me, will you?
And
hey, I got your first round draft pick in my hand. Whoop.
And you still got to pay him. He's on contract.
Darn right. And it's a lot, too. He got a nice contract.
Man, look, he'll be sitting back at the beach like this.
Absolutely.
With his beard.
Good job, Lovey.
So, congratulations. But go ahead. Anything else?
I don't know. I'm sure when things start getting finalized, well, I'm going to go back and reassess here and figure out, we're going to have to talk about this whole Rooney Rule thing again and all this stuff, man. I don't know. A lot of names being kicked around. It looks like some of these owners are really being meticulous. It looks like they're being very meticulous with these interviews and bringing in a whole lot of different people and all that stuff. But I don't know how much of it is smokescreen and how much, is really actually they're trying to get the best guy for the job. So we'll have to wait till some of their minds start to get made up and guys actually start getting hired. And then we'll try to figure it out from there.
Okay. All right. That makes sense. We'll finish up with a few more pieces of news and current events. Benny, did you know, apparently, and I kind of remember seeing this because they did it in real life, where the touchdown celebration was a guy falling out and another guy giving him CPR and all of that kind of stuff.
I've seen that several times.
Well, they had included it in the Madden game.
Okay.
And so they decided to pull that touchdown celebration after.
Right. It's not funny anymore.
It ain't funny no more. No. So it's amazing how this thing, mirrors reality. And I love the game. So I just wanted to make sure we mention that there's a humanity there, even in the virtual reality area.
Yep.
Did you get a chance to watch NFL mathematician Cynthia Freeland's breakdown on every team's chance to make the Super Bowl?
No.
Oh, man.
Am I to assume by looking at this picture that she's picking Kansas City to go all the way?
No, she's giving them the best odds.
The best odds, and that's 38.2%.
Yeah. Yeah, yeah,
Okay.
yeah. So go take, ladies and gentlemen, make sure you go to Ben and Barry Football. Take a look at this because I just think it's very interesting. Cynthia isn't always right, but she always has a numeric approach, you know, to
Right.
what she says, and you'd be interested. She's very interesting. I think she's an amazing person. So, game theory: every team's chance to make the Super Bowl. We lost Charles White, Benny. You are the college guy more so than I am. Former USC Heisman Trophy winner, passed at 64. It amazes me, especially when you have running backs. These are the guys who look the most in shape, when you see them, die off early like that. 64, man. We're both older than this guy. What do you got on this?
Well, Charles White was a great running back. As you can see, he won the Heisman Trophy when he was at USC. And that was part of the glory days at USC. He followed, I don't think he immediately followed, but I know he followed OJ Simpson there. I'm trying to think of who that used to be running back U.
Yeah.
Okay. USC had a string of star running backs, all of them great college running backs, not all of them great pros. Like Charles White didn't have a great pro season, as you can see by the caption there. He played for the Browns and the Rams, and didn't play really, really long either. But I remember him for his touchdown dance.
Oh, yeah?
Yes, when he would run into the end zone, he would drop to his knees and keep running. He used to
What?
run. He used to run on his knees. You have to look up some old footage. Go to
Oh,
YouTube,
my
find some old
goodness.
footage. Yes, he used to run on his knees in the end zone.
Did he say what that meant or how?
Not that I know of. No, that's just his thing.
That's even weirder than wasn't my Niner guy with the neck thing years ago.
Oh, no. That was weird. Merton Hanks. That was Merton Hanks
Merton
with the
Hanks.
the chicken dance or whatever he called it.
Oh my goodness. Okay. Well, that's a fond memory, and again, condolences to the family and friends of Charles White. All right. Benny. Thanks for following. Please leave comments and suggestions. Hashtag football is life. If you go on social media, especially on Facebook, and you put in hashtag football is life, you'll see so many of the posts that Ben and Barry have made over the years. That's one way to kind of go back and see what we've done. Benny, you are down there in sunny Florida.
Yes, I
Feeling the
am.
heat for a tournament. Tell us a little bit about your tournament before we sign off.
Well, this is the big tournament of the year. This is the UFFL Nationals. Teams from all over the country are here. We are playing in 8-on-8 Division III. 8 versus 8 style is everybody's eligible, and it's flag football. And like I said, it's the national championships for every style: 9-man, 8-man, eligible, ineligible. Female teams are down here. Girls teams are down here. The best of the best girls teams are down here. They have kids. If there's a style of flag football that means anything, it's being played down here this weekend. Tournament is 3 days: Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. Our first game is 11:30 on Friday. Friday's tomorrow, right?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So go Noles.
All right. Well, congratulations on being there. Best wishes. I'll even say it with you. Go Noles.